Hi there, Johnny B. Naturalista. Welcome back to my channel. We're going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to look at my DNA test results. So we are signing into Ancestry.com. I took my test probably 2 months ago, and I got an email saying, hey, your results are ready. So I have logged in, but before I look at my results, I want to talk a little bit about what I expect to see. Now, African Americans, we're kind of going by rumors and innuendo when it comes to what is our genetic makeup. So I have four quadrants of my family that are coming to mind. My mother being half, my father being half. I knew all four of my grandparents until I was a grown woman. So I knew what they thought they were as well. My mother is a green-eyed redhead. She's about my complexion, and she has very, very, very super kinky hair. Bright red, yes. What'd she do in her last life? So her last name is an Irish last name. So I expect to see a little bit from the UK. Her mother has a Jewish last name. And as I understand it, her mother, even though all four of my grandparents are based in an African stock, there is some mixture. So she has some Jewish in her. Now, on my father's side, the man who gave me my last name was a German. He was a plantation owner. Oh, I can't even say the word. He was a plantation owner. Let's just say it out. He gave me my last name. He was a German, from what I understand. And, but again, that was my great-grandfather. And my grandmother, my father's mother, was a Geechee. She was a Black Indian, Choctaw, and African. But her father had some French Canadian in him. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that as well. So we're talking probably West Africa and some UK and some Germany and some France. That's what I'm expecting to see. But again, we're going back several generations, so I would expect like trace elements of these types of blood, and that I will be African. So let's take a look. Let's take a look. Let's see. Wait. Here's my DNA. My DNA results summary. Okay. So, wait. This isn't making sense. Let me take a look. They're achieving my estimates. My results are up to date. My DNA doesn't change. It says your DNA doesn't change, but the science we use to analyze it does. So your results may change over time as the science improves. So I'm going to click got it. And let's take a look. So we've got, okay, so this is what you're going to see when you first go into the Ancestry DNA site. The first thing they're going to show you is this general page that gives you all of the regions from which they pull their data. You'll see that there are 350 different regions around the world. Most of them are in Europe. 289 of them are in Europe. So the regions of the world that will indicate where your DNA comes from will show up in color. So as you look at this, it looks like I've got DNA from all over the place, but you have to go a little bit closer to really see what's happening. So let's look a little bit closer. Starting with Africa, it looks as though I've got less than 1% North Africa, less than 1% Southeastern Bantu, 10% Benin Togo, 12% Cameroon Congo, 6% Ivory Coast Ghana, less than 1% Mali, 24% Nigerian. So that looks like that's my biggest chunk. And then Senegal, 11%. So when you add these up, you get 11, 35, 36, 42, 54, 64, 65, 66. 66? I'm only 66% African? What? Wait, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, don't panic. Don't panic. I see African American down there, and I'm going to click. Okay, so African Americans, it shows that Africans have some regions in the Americas. And yes, I am aware of that conspiracy theory that says that we African Americans are really American, that we didn't come from Africa, that we came from right here. So I'm wondering what this says. I'm wondering if this is saying that. It says no connection all the way through the Caribbean and through a lot of the Louisiana, Mid-Atlantic, South Carolina, etc. Mississippi, no connection. But if I click a little bit further, then Virginia and southern states makes sense because I happen to know that a portion of my family came from Greensboro, North Carolina. That's where I got my last name. So that makes sense. I'm still kind of weirded out about this 65% though. So it says that I have a likely connection with the southern states. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Now looking at Europe, 29% West Europe. So I have a bigger chunk of West Europe than I do of Nigeria, but when you add all the Africa together, it's 66%. And so I see I'm 29% West Europe, which doesn't truly surprise me because I know that I've got some Franco-Germanic thing going on. But as you scroll down, you see that there's also some trace elements of Great Britain, Iberian Peninsula, which is like Spain, and Ireland, about 2%, which makes sense. My mom is a green-eyed redhead. It makes sense. And then a little bit further down, I've got some Scandinavian blood. Okay, so that kind of weirds me out because when you add these up, 29, 30, 31, 33, 34, 34% European, 66% African, 34% European. This is kind of weird. I have two black parents. This is kind of weird. I wouldn't have thought the number would be that high. I would have thought it'd be something like 20%, like 15%. Like I really didn't expect to see a number that high. Somebody's got some splaining to do. Especially this, Native American, less than 1%. My grandmother is Choctaw. Now, from what I understand, the DNA test does not give you your full genetic picture. For women, it's testing the mitochondrial DNA. And so that's testing my mother's mother's line. So all of this is really capturing about 2% of who I am. And from what I understand, if I were a man, I would be testing my father's line. So you get your mother's people and your father's people, and then everybody in the middle is not accounted for. And so that would tell me why my Choctaw grandmother does not show up on this test. And what that also tells me is that my DNA is a lot crazier than even 6634. This is really bizarre. Very, very strange. So I'm going to go now and corner a few people in my family and ask them a few uncomfortable questions. Thank you for watching. Talk to you soon.